Morgan Westfield, CEO of Apex Innovations, had a special talent for getting into trouble. But that fateful Monday morning, when he dismissed Keanu Reeves as that uneducated clown from those silly action movies, he had no idea that the modest man with long hair sitting quietly at the back of the conference room was actually the silent majority shareholder who would determine whether his company survived the quarter. Before we continue the story, tell us in the comment below, where are you watching from? And if you like these kinds of stories, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow at 7 p.m. we have an amazing fresh story lined up for you. Morgan's day had started like any other. He arrived at Apex Innovations' towering glass headquarters in downtown Los Angeles promptly at 7:30 a.m., his Tesla Model S gliding silently into his reserved parking spot with his name engraved in gold letters. At 42, Morgan considered himself the epitome of success, a Harvard Business School graduate, married to a former beauty queen, owner of 3 homes, and above all, the youngest CEO in Apex's 30-year history. "Good morning, Mr. Westfield," chirped his assistant, Jessica, as she caught up to him in the office. She matched his brisk pace, balancing his very specific coffee order. A 20 ounces half CAF unsweetened vanilla almond milk latte, precisely at 102 degrees Fahrenheit. "What's on the agenda today?" Morgan asked without looking at her, checking his reflection in the glass walls as they walked past. "Meeting with the foundation at 9 o'clock in conference room A. The donor representatives are already here," Jessica said, her voice holding a note of tension that Morgan completely missed. "Early birds and eager to give us their money," Morgan chuckled, adjusting his Hermes tie. "What's the name of this foundation?" "The Horizon Foundation. They're interested in funding our tech education initiative for youth." Right. The charity thing. Good PR move. Make sure the photographers are ready for when I shake hands with whoever's in charge." Jessica hesitated. "Sir, I should mention, they specifically requested no publicity for this meeting. They're very private about their philanthropy." Morgan waved it off. "They all say that, but everyone wants their photo in the paper. Trust me, I know how these people think." As they approached the conference room, Jessica tried one more time. "Mr. Westfield, I really think you should know." "It's fine, Jessica. I can handle a couple of tax-dodging benefactors." Morgan interrupted with a smile that didn't reach his eyes and pushed open the double doors to the conference room. Inside, Morgan was surprised to find only 3 people waiting. He had expected an entire team of foundation reps with fancy portfolios and slick presentations. Instead, there was an older woman with silver-streaked hair tied back in a practical chignon, a young man with thick glasses who looked fresh out of boarding school, and at the far end of the table, a man with shoulder-length dark hair, wearing a simple black suit. The long-haired man was looking down, seemingly focused on something on the table. Without fully taking stock of the room, Morgan launched into his prepared greeting. "Welcome to Apex Innovations, where we're shaping the technology of tomorrow today," he boomed with rehearsed enthusiasm. "I'm Morgan Westfield, CEO and visionary behind our company's unprecedented growth." The older woman stood and extended her hand. "Patricia Keller, legal advisor for the Orion Foundation. This is Simon Park, our financial analyst." Yes, pleasure to meet you all," Morgan cut in, giving Patricia a quick handshake before turning to address the room more broadly. "I understand you're interested in our youth education initiative. Smart move. Tech literacy is the future, and Apex is leading the way. We've dedicated an entire floor of our building to the program. Though, of course, with proper funding, we could expand our vision." Patricia and Simon exchanged glances, but Morgan plowed ahead, launching into his well-worn pitch about Apex's community engagement efforts. As he spoke, he paced dramatically in front of the conference room, occasionally admiring his reflection in the glass wall. "Our program will target underprivileged youth, providing them with skills that might, just might, give them a chance at achieving a fraction of the success I've reached." Morgan paused for effect, then laughed. "Though without the right connections and education, there's only so far they can go, of course." The long-haired man shifted in his chair, but remained silent. Morgan, mistaking the movement for interest, directed his next comments at him. "We'll need about $5 million for the first phase," Morgan said, smiling condescendingly. "Might sound like a lot to some people, but in the business world, that's a modest investment for the kind of returns we're talking about." Patricia cleared her throat. "Mr. Westfield, perhaps we should discuss the foundation's philosophy, how it aligns with your initiative, before getting into specific amounts." Morgan waved her off dismissively. Sure, sure, but let's be honest. At the end of the day, it's all about numbers, right? The foundation gets a tax write-off, we get the funding, and a few kids get to play with computers. Everyone wins. Simon, the financial analyst, furrowed his brow slightly and opened his tablet. Actually, sir, the Horizon Foundation has a very specific mission. We only partner with organizations that demonstrate a genuine commitment to. Look, Morgan interrupted again. I appreciate all the talk about missions and values, but I've been in business long enough to know how these things work. You need to give money to someone, and we need money for our program. The rest is just window dressing. The room fell into awkward silence. Patricia's posture stiffened, and Simon stopped typing on his tablet. The long-haired man at the end of the table finally looked up, but Morgan still paid him no attention. Now then, Morgan continued, unaware of the tension, I've set aside 30 minutes for this meeting, and I have a call with the board afterward, so let's get to the point. What kind of publicity are you looking for with your donation? Cover of the annual report? Name on a plaque? Both can be arranged. Patricia's voice was cold when she finally spoke. As I believe your assistant informed you, the Horizon Foundation prefers to remain anonymous in its donations. Morgan laughed. Come on. No one gives away millions without wanting something in return. Fame, influence, a seat at the table with people like me, he pointed to himself. That's how the world works. Not everyone shares your perspective, Mr. Westfield, Patricia replied cautiously. Really? Morgan raised an eyebrow. Name one rich person who donates money without wanting their name plastered everywhere. The man with the long hair at the end of the table finally spoke. Warren Buffett. Chuck Feeney. Startled, Morgan turned and really noticed the man for the first time. There was something vaguely familiar about him, but Morgan couldn't place it. He brushed off the thought and laughed dismissively. Exceptions that prove the rule. And who are you? The Foundation's Community Relations Coordinator? The social media manager? The man didn't answer. He simply held Morgan's gaze with a calm, steady look that, for some reason, made Morgan uncomfortable. Irritated by the silence and eager to reassert control of the room, Morgan went on. Let me guess. You're one of those idealists who think money doesn't matter and we should all just hold hands and make the world a better place? He laughed at his own joke. Sorry, but that's not how you build a multi-million-dollar company. When the man still didn't respond, Morgan became increasingly annoyed. He had expected this meeting to be a simple formality. Sign a check, take a photo, done in 15 minutes. Instead, he was dealing with what seemed like the most lackluster foundation reps he'd ever met. Anyway, Morgan continued, turning back to Patricia. As I was saying before your colleague's little interruption, we need to talk terms. I'm thinking $5 million up front, with a commitment for another 5 over the next 2 years. Patricia closed her portfolio. Mr. Westfield, I think we've heard enough. Wait, said Morgan, a sudden flash of recognition hitting him as he looked again at the man with long hair. Now I know who you are. You're that actor, right? From those ridiculous action movies where you grunt and shoot people? He snapped his fingers, trying to recall the name. Something with an H. The man tilted his head slightly, but remained silent. Morgan laughed, proud of himself for identifying him. That's it. Keanu Reeves. What are you doing here? Celebrity endorsement for the foundation? Smart move, although I'd have picked someone with a bit more intellectual credibility. No offense, but you're not exactly known for your brains. Simon's eyes widened in alarm, and Patricia's mouth opened slightly. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Morgan, completely misunderstanding the room's mood, kept digging. Hey, don't get me wrong. Those Matrix movies were pretty fun, if you like that sci-fi nonsense. But seriously, sending an uneducated Hollywood clown to a business meeting like this? The foundation must be more desperate for publicity than I thought. Patricia stood up abruptly. Mr. Westfield, I think this meeting is. No, it's all right, Patricia, the man finally spoke. His voice was surprisingly gentle and composed. Mr. Westfield is entitled to his opinion. The calm tone only encouraged Morgan further. Look, no disrespect to your profession, Morgan said, making air quotes, but this is a serious business discussion about millions of dollars. Maybe you should stick to pretending to know kung fu and leave real-world decisions to people who actually went to college. The man nodded thoughtfully. Education comes in many forms, mister. Something about the measured reply irritated Morgan even more. Right, and I'm sure your form was very special. He turned back to Patricia. Can we get back to business now, or does Hollywood here need an autograph first? Patricia's face had turned to stone. Westfield, allow me to formally introduce our third colleague. This is Keanu Reeves, the founder and primary donor of the Horizon Foundation. Morgan's smug smile froze on his face. Excuse me, what? Reeves established the Horizon Foundation 15 years ago. He personally funds the majority of our grants and takes an active role in choosing our partners. Patricia's voice was cold. He was particularly interested in your youth initiative, which is why he chose to attend this meeting personally, despite his typically private nature. Morgan felt the blood drain from his face. There must be some mistake. He's just an actor. I'm many things, mister, Keanu said quietly, rising to his feet. An actor is just one of them. Simon, the financial analyst, now looked quite pleased as he added, Reeves has donated over $100 million to various children's hospitals, cancer research, and educational initiatives in the past decade, all without publicity. Damn, Morgan stammered. I was especially moved by the story of your youth tech program, Keanu continued, his voice still calm. Technology can change lives when placed in the right hands. That's why I was considering a $10 million grant, double what you asked for. The word was hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Reeves, I had no idea. I deeply apologize for the misunderstanding. Morgan backpedaled frantically. What I said was completely out of line and doesn't reflect my true feelings at all. Actually, I'm a huge fan of your work. The Matrix trilogy? Revolutionary. John Wick. A masterpiece. Keanu buttoned his suit jacket. There's no need to apologize for your honesty, mister. It's actually rather refreshing. He turned to Patricia and Simon. I think we've learned everything we need to know about Apex Innovations and its leadership. Wait, please, Morgan pleaded, desperation creeping into his voice. Let me explain. I've been under a lot of pressure lately. The board, the shareholders. I didn't mean what I said. The youth program means everything to me. Keanu looked at Morgan thoughtfully. Really? Because it seemed like it was just a publicity stunt to you. Morgan withered under Keanu's gaze, suddenly aware of how empty his own words had sounded. I misspoke. Please, let's start over. I can show you the detailed plans for the program. It will change lives. I believe it could, Keanu agreed. But I'm not sure you're the right person to lead it. What do you mean? Morgan asked, a cold feeling settling in his stomach. Patricia opened her portfolio again and pulled out a document. Westfield, there's something else you should know. The Horizon Foundation doesn't just issue grants. Last year, through a separate investment vehicle, Mr. Reeves became a major shareholder in Apex Innovations. Morgan stared blankly. That's impossible. I would have been informed of any significant share purchase. Not if the shares were acquired gradually through multiple holding companies, Simon said, adjusting his glasses. As of last week, Mr. Reeves effectively owns 30% of Apex's voting stock. The room began to spin around Morgan. 30%. That made Keanu the largest individual shareholder, with more influence than Morgan himself, who owned only 12%. In addition to discussing the grant, Patricia continued, we were planning to inform you that Reeves will be taking a more active role in overseeing the company's community initiatives, starting with the youth tech program. You can't do this, Morgan protested weakly. I actually can, Keanu said, still in that measured tone. And after today's meeting, I believe I have to. The youth program is too important to be treated as a PR stunt. I'll fight this, Morgan threatened, though his voice lacked conviction. Patricia gave a slight smile. That would be unwise, mister. Especially since we've also uncovered some concerning irregularities in Apex's financial statements. Morgan's face drained of what little color was left. Nothing definitive yet, Simon added, but enough to warrant a deeper investigation. We had intended to address that privately after the grant matters were resolved, Patricia said. But given the atmosphere of this meeting, perhaps it's best to lay all our cards on the table. Morgan collapsed back into his chair. This is a nightmare. Reality often is, when it finally catches up with us, Keanu observed. He turned to his colleagues. Patricia, Simon, I think we've taken up enough of Westfield's time. He has a board call to prepare for. As they gathered their materials, Morgan made one last desperate attempt. Mr. Reeves, please. I've worked my whole life to build this company. You can't just come in and take it away based on a misunderstanding. Keanu paused at the door and looked back at Morgan. I don't want to take your company, Mr. Westfield. I just want to ensure the youth program reaches its full potential. These kids deserve better than to be pawns in someone's PR strategy. I understand that now, Morgan insisted. Give me another chance. I'll prove that I'm committed to the program. Keanu considered this for a moment. Actions have consequences, mister, but I do believe in second chances under the right circumstances. He nodded to Patricia, who handed Morgan a business card. My office will contact you tomorrow. Come prepared to discuss the youth program in detail, its curriculum, its goals, and its true purpose. Not as the CEO of Apex, but as someone who wants to make a meaningful impact on these children's lives. What does that mean? Morgan asked, staring at the card. It means, Keanu explained, that effective immediately, you'll be taking a leave of absence as CEO while we address the financial irregularities Simon mentioned. In the meantime, you'll work directly with the youth program as a volunteer instructor. A volunteer? Morgan repeated, stunned. You want me to teach kids how to use computers? No, mister. I want you to learn from them. Keanu's expression softened slightly. You might be surprised what they can teach you about success, connection, and what truly matters. With that, Keanu and his team left the conference room, leaving Morgan alone with the wreckage of his career and the dawning realization that his definition of success had been fundamentally wrong. 6 months later, a very different Morgan Westfield sat cross-legged on the floor of the Apex Youth Technology Center, surrounded by a group of eager teenagers. The tailored suit was gone, replaced by casual jeans and a simple button-down shirt. His perfectly styled hair was now slightly tousled, and genuine smile lines had begun forming around his eyes. That's it, Maria. You did it. He encouraged a young girl who had just coded her first game. What made you think to try that solution? As Maria explained her thought process, Morgan listened intently, genuinely impressed by her creativity. When she finished, the whole group applauded. All right, everyone, great session today, Morgan announced as they wrapped up. Remember, next week we'll have a special guest speaker talking about careers in game development. As the kids packed up their things and left the room chatting excitedly, Morgan smiled quietly to himself. Finally understanding what success really meant, Morgan began tidying up the room. He no longer had an assistant to do those things for him, and surprisingly, he didn't mind. They respect you, came a familiar voice from the door. Morgan looked up to find Keanu Reeves leaning against the doorframe, watching the scene with quiet approval. Mr. Reeves, Morgan acknowledged, standing up. I didn't know you were coming today. Just passing through, checking in on how things are progressing. Keanu walked into the room, looking over the projects displayed on the walls, games, apps, and robots, all created by the participants of the program. Impressive. They're remarkable kids, Morgan agreed. Brilliant. Creative. They just needed someone to believe in them. He hesitated. I should have seen it from the start, you did. A moment of understanding passed between them. The past 6 months had been a humbling journey for Morgan. After being removed as CEO, he had initially approached the volunteer role with resentment. But something unexpected had happened. The kids, with their energy and fresh perspectives, had gradually broken through his carefully built facade. For the first time in years, Morgan found himself doing something that mattered, beyond profit margins and shareholder value. The board meeting is tomorrow, Keanu reminded him. They'll decide on the permanent CEO position. The investigation into Apex's finances had, in fact, uncovered irregularities, not outright fraud, but the kind of aggressive accounting and corner-cutting that had become all too common in the race for constant growth. Morgan had fully cooperated, taking responsibility for the corporate culture he had created. I know, Morgan said quietly. Patricia sent me the agenda. I assume you've already decided who you're supporting for the role. I have, Keanu confirmed. The candidate has shown remarkable transformation in recent months, a new understanding of what Apex can be at its best. Morgan looked up, surprised. You can't mean. The youth program is thriving under your guidance, Morgan. The kids trust you. The instructors respect you. You've built something genuine here. But after everything that's happened, 6 months ago, I met a man who defined success by his possessions and power, Keanu said. Today, I see someone who measures success by the impact he has on others' lives. He gestured to the room around them. This isn't just appearances anymore. It's become your purpose. Morgan was speechless. If you want the CEO position again, I'll support your reinstatement, Keanu continued. With conditions, of course. The youth program becomes a core part of Apex's mission, not a side project. And you'll have to rebuild the company culture from the ground up. Why would anyone trust me with that, after how I behaved? Morgan asked. Keanu smiled slightly. Because the man who insulted me in that conference room wouldn't be asking that question. He extended his hand. Everyone deserves the chance to rewrite their story, Morgan. Even uneducated clowns like us. Morgan took Keanu's hand, feeling the weight of both responsibility and possibility. Thank you. I won't let you, or them, down. He glanced around at the students' projects surrounding them. I know, Keanu replied simply, as they walked out together. Morgan reflected on the strange twist of fate that had brought him here. He had lost his title, his corner office, and his inflated sense of self-importance. But somehow, among the young and eager minds in this classroom, he had found something far more valuable. A true purpose and a chance to redefine success in more meaningful terms. He had learned the hardest lesson of his life from the most unexpected teacher. A humble man who had every reason to show him the door, but instead had shown him a better way forward. Thank you for watching. If the story warms your heart, subscribe to the channel and click the screen for more inspirational stories of resilience, compassion, and hope.